Welcome to the Campground Catalyst Podcast, the show dedicated to fueling success in outdoor hospitality. Whether you're an outdoor adventurer, a campground owner, or looking to build your legacy in outdoor hospitality, you're right where you need to be. We're here to guide you through the fascinating world of campground management, unique real estate strategies, and the gratifying opportunities created by outdoor hospitality. Our mission is to inspire and equip you with the knowledge and insights you need to build a successful business and create a legacy worth leaving. The Campground Catalyst Podcast is proudly sponsored by Beyonder Camp, your trusted outdoor hospitality experts. Subscribe now, join our active online community, and let's ignite our passions and potential together. Welcome back to the Campground Catalyst Podcast. I'm here today with my co-hosts. I'm Adam with my co-hosts, Robert, Justin, and Don. How are you guys doing today?
Doing excellent. How you doing, Adam?
Doing good. I was grooving to the intro music. I was loving that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll play a different one for you on the outro. Okay. Today's topic is part of our Adventure Bound series. We're going to be talking about goal setting. Obviously, depending on where you are in your journey and what your journey is, you may have different goals, but we're going to share a little bit of our collective experience, some of our own personal goals that have got us to where we are today. You've got the benefit of two coaches on here who have experience coaching people through success with goals to share some wisdom as well on how you can work on setting those goals, making them smart, and working to achieve them as you work toward your successful goals in outdoor hospitality. I want to start off, let's go around. I want to get some current goals from you guys relative to what we do. So, Justin, why don't you kick us off?
All right. Well, we are really preparing for a great summer season, and I think a lot of those goals come around for all different aspects for us. Mine right now is projects, and so I'm looking to complete some major projects and get our parks ready for the next season. So a lot of revenue items in that, so making sure we're successful.
All right, Don?
Well, obviously it's for us in the investor side of things, but also for our employees in the company. We want to make sure our properties are profitable. So we're kind of focusing on the goal of having each property meet its goals for targets for income expenses to make sure we can stay in business and keep going and provide great returns to our investors.
All right, awesome. And how about you, Robert?
As many 5-star reviews as we can possibly get, and still focusing on 100 properties. Just having that big overarching goal as the focus that drives me while you're doing the day-to-day operations.
Yeah, very good. It's interesting just hearing the breadth of different, we all work for the same company, but we all have different goals within it that we're focusing on. Obviously Robert's on the operations front looking for those 5-star reviews. Don, looking out for the investors and also giving kind of a holistic approach to the performance as in the portfolio. Justin's very focused on, the properties themselves and of course getting, making sure that they're ready for the revenue streams. For me personally, I'm focused on the team right now, just getting the right people in the right seats, getting everybody trained up and facing in the same direction. So making some key hires and getting the right people on the bus, because obviously that's where the growth comes from. It's kind of fun just to watch the journey we've come into from back when we first started getting into this space. And, this went from Justin and I having a pipe dream to turning it into campground number 1, and then, meeting Don, and then turned into campgrounds 2 through 6. And, then Robert came along, in the middle of that journey and helped us grow out on the operations side, and just watching, sort of how this has evolved. But, what it really comes to at the end of the day, and this goes back to early success in businesses, being able to set a clear goal, set a smart goal, and actually, work toward that plan. Whether the plan for you is to buy a campground or the plan is to, get out of your day job and take life on the road like Robert did, whatever the case is, the path to getting there is by setting a smart goal. So what's a smart goal? Who wants to spit it out for me?
Go for it.
Do we take turns going through? Well, first thing, I've got to be very specific. The S in it is I've got to be very, very specific of what I'm trying to accomplish. The next portion of it is it's got to be measurable. If our goal is not measurable, if I don't have a way that I can actually do tick marks against it or something, then is it really a goal? The next part is it has to be achievable. I have to have achievable. I have to have actions associated with it. I've seen it written a couple different ways because, if I say that I'm going to play in the NBA or I'm going to be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, I don't know if this particular moment that is achievable, that goes into it. And this is where it goes back and forth of being action-based, not just something that's passive. A couple years ago, the law of attraction and The Secret was real big. And if I sit in my living room and dream of having a campground and I don't actually take action towards it, am I really doing anything? Is it really a goal? I want to be very realistic about it. I want to be able to again, know that that's a portion of it. So sometimes I can't share the goal with others because all they're going to do is try to poke holes in it. And then the T in it is it has to be time-based. There are folks that make a salary every year, and over the course of 20 years, if you add up their salary, they've made $1 million. But what is the comparison of doing that over a long period of time versus setting a target and saying, I'm going to actually do that within a set period of time? So even when I throw out 100 campgrounds, that's measurable, it's achievable from the path. The one missing part of it is very specific, but what's missing from that is a time component, and that's where I would tie into being a SMART goal.
And I want to add one letter to that. This is on a whim. Never said this before. SMARTs. I'm going to add the very last S there, and it has to be said. And you talked about holes being poked in it, but what goal is ever achieved if you didn't put it out to the universe and you said your goal? And you really do need to mention it, and it keeps you accountable, right? So if you're telling your team what your goals are, it's so much harder to say, "Yep, I didn't accomplish it," right? So it puts that little bit of extra oomph behind it.
Yeah, very good. I had an alternative to that. I always actually like to say that I like SMART goals. So everything Robert said, the first, 5 letters of it, but then ending with a why. And literally your why as to why you're going after that goal. So when you're writing it out and you're reviewing it, you can understand what's the purpose that you keep getting up and punching the clock and working at this goal every single day, so you can remind yourself, because there are going to be days that it sucks, and there are going to be days that, the monotony kicks in and you don't know why you're doing it, and you want to throw your hands up, or you want to just give up on it. I'll tell you, when we were buying our first campground, and if you're getting into the space, you may be experiencing this, you go to a bank and try to get financing on that property, and they're going to say, okay, great, what experience do you have? And you can tell them all the other, relevant experience that you think you have. For us, it was sharing real estate experience and other business experience. They wanted campground operational experience. We got turned down by 50 plus banks, Justin. It almost turned into a joke. Like, we didn't think it was going to happen. Every time you call a bank, we started screening through. It's like, no. Before we send you the financials, we've never owned a campground. Like, will you finance us? And they go, oh, no. So move on to the next one. It wasn't until we finally just kept pounding the pavement, and honestly, we thought we were going to have to cancel on this deal that we had. It ended up being our first campground, and finally we found a local credit union, in the backyard of the property that was willing to take a chance on us. They said, they looked at our collective experience and thought it was worthwhile. But boy, after 10, I think a lot of people might be ready to go, boy, this isn't happening. Like I said, it was seriously almost 50 banks that shut us down before we got into. And then, of course, the door opened. Part number 2 was no issue. All of a sudden we were quasi experts in as far as the bankers were concerned. We at least checked the box anyhow. But that's where I think the why comes in, and going, why are we doing this? God, we'd spent weeks underwriting this thing and working with banks. So why are we doing this? But good point, Justin. I love the stated goal. Telling people what you're achieving. That goes back to the very first self-help book that really got me focused on goal setting, which was 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey. That was kind of the first one that opened my eyes, and he talked about stating your goals and stating with yourself first, actually putting them in writing, and then enlisting other people in there. And my God, what a difference maker that is. So really cool to see the kind of the growth curve we've been on as we've gone along. And of course, Robert, you have kind of a more unique angle in that you are more or less the head coach in our company with our general managers at our different properties. Would you mind kind of sharing now, as you get into the operations side, some of the things that you and your team are focused on in your operations?
Well, you brought up the why, and if we don't have the bigger picture of it, then we tie these things together. If we don't have the bigger picture, and then we turn and we talk about our our goals that we have and our why. When we're doing something, are we doing it just to satisfy that one particular park? Or are we doing this because this is a system, this is a process that we're going to put in place at multiple different parks at multiple different times? So we've really been focused on the why, and the why leads to, with a Simon Sinek type of approach, it really ties to then what are we doing, how are we doing it? But if we don't have that focused and anchored first of the bigger picture, then we have a little bit of a difficulty. We end up solving a problem here at one particular park. We solve it a different way at another park. Well, yeah, we solved the problem, but did it help us towards our collective goal? I think we see it when we get our CARES reports in sometimes, is that individuals try to get into the campground industry, and their why in many cases may be just strictly to replace their job. And of course, I've used the term before, job just over broke. And what they end up doing is they end up buying a job. And that was not what their intention was. That's not what their goal was. And they realized that we met a individual at the Campground Owners Expo. For the last 10 years, 15 years, it has been 6.5, 7 days a week, 12, 14 hours a day, and they get burned out. Well, what did they do? They bought themselves a job. They didn't actually have a larger or a specific goal that they were going towards. I think we see that with investors that say, hey, I want to spend some money, or I want to make some money. And that's where Don has to come in and say, okay, what is it that you're really trying to accomplish?
Yeah, 100%. It's spot on with that. And of course, you talked about buying yourself a job, and really some of that comes true from setting the goal one time and kind of forgetting about it. That's one thing I'm really proud that we've adopted in our company is EOS, and it's given us a chance to, on a regular basis, be in relationship with our company goals, which then of course we transcends down to our personal goals. But, we just got done, a couple months ago doing our annual business planning, and we're going to be doing our next quarter planning here soon, which is where we're going to be interrogating the goals we set 3 months prior, and going back and figuring out, are the actions we're taking still relevant to those today? And this is something, certainly, Robert, you brought up the CARES reports that, is a regular conversation we end up having with a lot of campground owners is, what is your end goal in this? Like, what is the plan at the end of this? You got the campground, congratulations. That's a big, milestone for a lot of people, but what's the next step? Are you prepared to exit this? Do you have a plan for what are you going to work this till the day you die? And if so, okay, well, that's fine. But then who's going to take it next? And what's that transition going to look like? Or, do you want to be prepared in case you have some kind of a major life change, or is there another chapter in your life after this for you? I'll tell you, I'm, more than, I'm not even halfway through my life yet, and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, and Robert, you made a pretty significant transition a few years ago yourself. So, I think having that plan in place and keeping those goals up to date. Any of you guys have a process you use personally that you want to share?
Yeah. Well, first, I just want to go back and cover, you mentioned EOS, just for those who don't know what that is, right? It's the entrepreneurial operating system. I can't even say that word, but it's the systems and processes that you need to put in place to have a successful business. That's a system that, as Adam mentioned, we follow, as well as do many other successful businesses, rather than just throwing stuff on the wall and seeing what works and doesn't. It's proven system that you follow that will help you to have success in whatever business you're doing.
Yeah, good point. We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah, good. No, thanks for calling that out, Don. I throw a lot of jargon around. I want to make sure we're explaining it, and we'll put it in the show notes. That obviously the whole system was developed by a gentleman named Gino Wickman. He rolled it out in the book Traction. So a lot of companies are adopting it. It's proven to be a really good model for someone who needs guidance getting into business, and I think it'd be the perfect fit even for somebody who's owning one campground. You can implement this. You are running a business and you are leading a team, even if that's just you or you and a significant other or you and a partner, or if you're bringing more members of the team in, maybe you have a bigger operation. It's worth sitting down and actually having a plan going forward, because obviously if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right?
And so, Adam, to your question a little bit here, I'm going to go back to the very beginning for a moment and just say that that was one of the biggest draws I had to you when we started this business, and that was was focused and goal setting, and realizing that you had to set goals to move forward. And this wasn't a whim. This wasn't just a hobby in a sense. I mean, it's a passion project, but it's not something you don't focus on. So it was very important from the very beginning for us, and has been always one of the main questions we have in interviews. So when we hire people, it's how do you set goals? How do you hold yourself accountable? And and in terms of setting them for us, I mean, we the way we look at it for the EOS model is 10-year, 5-year, 1 year down to month, and then weekly is more like a to-do list. But working yourself back. So where do you want to end up? Come backwards, and the little steps along the way that are going to get you there.
Yeah, 100%. So no, good point, Justin. Back to my question, and I'll just bring it up for the rest of you guys here. Do you have a system you guys are employing right now for your own personal goals? Because it's important to be looking at this, not just the company goals, obviously.
Actually, this year I went back to a paper manual. I actually went and got a monk manual and have a paper book that forces me to look at that on a weekly basis. Both of you are pilots, Adam and Justin, and I had the opportunity to fly with Adam, and the number of checklists that we have, the number of really, when you think about flying, we flew most of the way across the country, and we were doing dot to dot. And what I mean is we were going from one airport or over to one airspace to another. Yes, we were heading the general direction, but it was not in a straight line. It was going to where we were being directed. So that paper manual allows me to do it, even though I have a lot of technology systems and a lot of things on the phone. It's having that check-in that goes there. Another exercise that my wife and I have done every year, it was kind of interesting that when we were dating, we saw a full year calendar with a white erase that was actually up in both of our house or condo, and we knew we were kindred souls from that standpoint, taking time at the start of the year and working and putting the things in that we want first. We're getting ready to go see Billy Joel and Sting. Well, that became a priority because it was a fun time. It was something that we were going to do, and having that marker on our calendar then allowed us to work other things around our schedule, work trips, different areas of the country that we wanted to be in, because we take that time and go through and see what's important to us.
Yeah, great point.
It's a very, very similar thing from myself and my wife as well. Obviously, if you're married, your spouse should be your partner and be part of this process with you. But we do the same thing. At the beginning of the year, the end of the year, plan out that full year. And even if we don't know where we're going to go on vacation, let's mark off this week or 2 weeks, whatever. We're going somewhere, doing something, taking time for that. So it's blocked off. Otherwise, it gets filled up with work stuff. You never get to it. So we plan out the year that way. We initially, kind of like you, I guess we write it down on paper first as we're discussing it all, and then go back and fill it on the calendars. She has a big whiteboard she has in front of her desk that she puts some of those important things on for the what's coming up in the next week or month, and kind of continually updates that. We review those every quarter, kind of see where we're at with those goals and what we need to do to get back on track, or if we're good, what can we do better. You kind of break it down by, if our goal at the end of the year is to do X, what are the goals to get us there? We can do it a quarterly and then, monthly or weekly basis, and constantly review that, because things may change during the year. Your goal may end up being bigger, or realize 6 months in, that's not going to happen. Let's be more realistic and instead of buying 100 properties this year, we'll buy 10. So, whatever it is they need to do, adjust along the way. But yeah, I think the problem people have when they set goals is when they get to that point where they realize it's not going to happen. Instead of adjusting, they just give up and say, well, I'm not going to get it, so why try? But just need to adjust and make changes along the way if needed to help you either get there or at least get close to it. I mean, I've always followed the thought pattern that if you physically speaking doesn't make sense, but you shoot for the moon, you hit the stars, you still are ahead of where you wanted to be. So even if you don't quite hit your goal you wanted, but you get close to it, that's still an achievement.
Don, the moon is physically closer than the stars, so I guess I'm confused by your analogy there.
He acknowledged it. He acknowledged it. He said that was actually the case. So I'm glad that he put the asterisk on there right away. One other part from our park standpoint is we have all our activities planned out. And what this is really going to do from a goal standpoint is we know our budget of what we're going to do, but more importantly, knock on wood, we're not going to have managers running around, or we're not going to have the campgrounds on Wednesday or Thursday going, oh no, what are we doing this weekend? So they actually have things planned out, have the supplies. Hopefully we'll limit the number of trips that they have to make to Walmart to get things on that Friday afternoon, because, oh my goodness, we've got a whole campground full. And what are we going to do on Saturday? I just know that from experience of staying at campgrounds, of not having plans, not having things put in place. And you're like, what's going on this weekend? And then I end up leaving that campground to go someplace else and spending money or spending time when the campground could have planned ahead and had a goal as to the type of environment they wanted to have.
Yeah. Don, you went a couple levels expert over what I was even thinking this would go into. But yeah, mentioning the couples, I think that's a thing worth highlighting, especially since so many folks who are getting into this business are doing this with a spouse or significant other, and really needing to be in alignment with that other person on what you're working toward together. I can tell you from my days as a coach, when you had some, like my client would have a spouse or that wasn't on the same page as them, wasn't on the same track. Unfortunately, I saw a lot of relationships dissolve. If you don't have the same alignment, it's a tough thing to get through. I did see some who made it, but it can be a challenge. It's really probably a hard conversation you need to have before you get into buying a big piece of commercial real estate. Probably something that you want to make sure you're on the same page. And then I want to dovetail that back to the business goals, because this is, I think, a disconnect that happens too often, is that we have, a certain set of business goals, we have a certain set of personal goals, but if you actually look at how the business supports the personal goals, there's a misalignment. You say that you want to travel the world over here on this side, and you're going to spend, 6 months, on the road this year, but you buying a campground over here that doesn't have enough revenue to support you hiring a manager so you can be out of the country like that. So what do you find yourself doing? Putting those goals of traveling to the side as you sit there and run your campground 6-7 days a week. So, it kind of goes back to what Robert said originally on that. You just bought yourself a job, and that's where the improper preparation can kick in on that. So, building from those personal goals and then finding the business that supports it if you have that luxury. But if you already have the business, of course, building the business goals in such a way that they support your personal goals and setting those, reasonably so that you can make sure you're achieving them. Did I miss anything there?
No, well, I'd say along with that,
good.
if you're looking to buy your property, make sure you're analyzing it properly to include the cost for management, so you can step out of the business, whether you want to or not. That's one day you probably will need to or want to. So plan to hire Beyonder Camp to manage your campgrounds and put that into your budget ahead of time. Okay, this is still going to work at this price. Great. You can still manage yourself for times to know the business, obviously, but knowing that, okay, it's in the budget and that it will work to still hire out the management for it. So you can go travel the world or spend time with the grandkids or whatever you want to do.
There's too many small campgrounds being built. That is, Don, but there's too many small campgrounds being built. 15 sites, 20 sites. They had a small little piece of land. They put it on there. They have a campground. And no, they don't. They have a job, and then when they go to look for somebody, and I see it on the work camper sites that they're asking for volunteers to help them out. Well, that's a direct reflection on the campground not generating enough revenue. Period.
Yep. Absolutely. It's and that goes into the planning. It's just realizing what the realistic revenue is going to be and understanding just from talking. This is where the networking comes in. Talk to other campground owners, understand what works, what doesn't work, and what you can expect. Because Robert, you hit it on the head. I run into this regularly with a farmer who says, "Well, I wanted to build 30 sites on my property, because I've got this extra land out here, and now they're chained. Now that they can't leave, they've got to have somebody running it." So. Totally relevant. To Don's plug, whether you hire Beyonder or you hire, a manager yourself to run the property, just have a plan for that. That's part of your exit. You're going to find if you're running your own campground now, which you should. I think everybody who is buying one should actually understand how it operates and go get on site. We did. We still do. We touch these things regularly, but, actually get on site, understand how it works, and then have a plan for getting out of it before you even start. Understand what it's going to take to hire that person. Be reasonable about what it's going to cost for that person. It's probably going to be more than you think, and you have to temper your expectations. Understand that person is never going to care about it as much as you do. Whether you hire a third-party company, I'd love to say that we care about it as much as you do, but that'd be a bold-faced lie. Because it means something different to you. we're going to certainly come in. If we manage somebody else's property, we're going to treat it as best we can because we want to represent our brand as best we can, but nobody's going to love it as much as you do. So that's part of the expectation setting you got to do with yourself.
And a single manager will still want some time off too. They're not going to be there working 24/7 for you. They still have days off and vacation, so you got to make sure you have an option to fill in when they're gone.
Yeah.
In order to accomplish the same goal, from my aspect of it, what I look at is the investment into a fund or into somebody like Beyonder. Because for myself, putting my money to work, yes, I'm working in the company, but being able to, I'm probably using the wrong term here by saying fractional ownership, yet when I'm investing in a fund that owns the campground, then I can still be in another location. I don't need to be at the specific park, and I can still benefit from the tax benefits from the returns. So that's something that is also attractive for me as being involved with Beyonder, is I can be involved with different levels. Some of these campground owners need to just sell those 15 sites and take their money and put it to work in other ways. So that's just a thought that I have as well of what they'd be able to do, because when you ask them, what are you really trying to accomplish? They're trying to get some sort of return.
100%. And I think this is a great time just, to go back to the CARES report, which Robert mentioned at the beginning. It's something that we provide at Beyonder, and it's, of course, something that we'd like to share with members of the Campground Catalyst community who own a campground or who are maybe about to buy their first campground. First off, the CARES might not be perfect for somebody who hasn't yet bought one, but we are here to help. It's something that we'd be happy to give advice on and share some of our experience on. However, if you already own a campground and you want to plan ahead for the future, you want to set your goals, let us be your goal-setting partners in that. This is an exclusive tool we have. It's proprietary to us, and it is a health report on your property. And it's a list of opportunities that you have to improve your business, which improving the business means improving your revenues, your cash flows, and the ability for you to, build the legacy that you want and be able to move on after this. So, of course, that's something that we provide free value. There's a link in the show notes to that for our campground owner listeners. But for everybody else who's setting goals, like Justin said, get it in writing and then state it to somebody. That's going to be the most important part. If you're planning on doing it and you've been talking about it for a couple of years, when you start telling people, you're not going to want to let yourself down on that. So take action and move forward from there. Any closing thoughts, guys, before we wrap this one up?
Well, a little bit about achieving that goal is time blocking, and I think that's important to make sure you're setting time aside to achieve those goals. So, you can state all day long, but making sure you're out there working on it. Back to Robert's point about activities. You don't want to be surprised by the weekend that shows up. You want to make sure you're planning, you're setting the time aside to make sure that you are, setting the goal for that weekend, for example, making sure it happens. And a little bit about some of my own success too. I'm going to do a plug for Miracle Morning, and back to a little bit of the roots there too is a routine, and I found that very successful. And having a morning routine every day that took part of what they refer to as the savers, different aspects of that, but silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And as part of that, I found that as a big benefit for me in achieving success.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a great saying out there: people don't decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. So. That's right.
Very good. Yeah. I'll throw in one last plug just on this topic of goal setting. We actually held the webinar at the end of 2022 with Adam Lundy as the guest speaker at that webinar. You can find that on our Beyonder Holdings YouTube channel. December 2022. They nail the title, but something like goal setting. But it's on there if you want to go find that to learn more. Maybe put that in the show notes as well. The link to that.
I can't believe that was already from 2022. Boy, last year flew by. Yeah, that was a good mix-up. I've been through a number of goal-setting systems over the years, and that was kind of my mashup of all the little bits and pieces of each one that I liked. So, if you're interested in and you want to get some exposure to different systems, that's a great place to start. So thanks for that, Don. All right. Well, in closing, this has been Campground Catalyst. We appreciate you for joining us today. Please make sure you're joining the conversation on Patreon. That's where we get our inspiration for our show topics from your questions, and we get a chance to get those answered and provide you an exclusive community in which you can interact with us and with other outdoor hospitality professionals. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Adam, from Justin, Robert, Don, and I. Have a great day.
We'll see you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Campground Catalyst Podcast, where we take you behind the scenes in the fun and gratifying world of outdoor hospitality. We hope you were inspired by today's show and better equipped to take the next steps in your journey. Remember, you can continue the conversation and connect with fellow enthusiasts by visiting our website and joining the Campground Catalyst community on Patreon at campgroundcatalyst.com. There, Patreon members get exclusive access to special listener perks, they get their opportunity to engage with the host, and they get their questions answered on one of our future upcoming shows. The Campground Catalyst Podcast is proudly sponsored by Beyonder Camp, your trusted partner in fueling your success in outdoor hospitality. Until next time, keep both your campfires and your passions burning.